my name is Josh Nathan, and I never thought I'd actually love teaching as much as I do, so I started the other way around. I started in journalism, and I graduated from Northwestern University, and the best tip they ever gave me about finding a job in journalism was the best tip they ever gave me, which was drive to different stations, do your, can you look at my resume reel? I know you don't have any jobs open right now, but you look and you check and you go to stations where you know there are jobs open. You just don't tell them, and oh, I'm dropping by, I'm in your area, can you look? And of course they look at it, and then they say, oh, by the way, we actually do have an opening. And I did the road trip and got 3 job offers from that and chose the best one. Spent the first 2 years for a CNN affiliate in Lawrence, Kansas, and this is where I found networking to be of the utmost importance. In that March of my senior year in college, I went to the stations. I'm from Denver, so I went to the smaller market, 60 miles south, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and I visited different stations there in spring break. And I met with one of the meteorologists at one of the stations, and he said, oh, I like your tape, we'll see what happens. And he called me every time there was a job opening. And 5 times he called me over the course of a year and a half. 4 times I never heard anything, and he walked in my resume, walked in my reel, nothing happened. 5th time I got hired. Worked there for 3 years. The same news director hired me again when I was working on my master's in Hawaii, and he was the news director for NBC in Honolulu. Never would have thought all of that would connect. I ended up pursuing graduate school because I did have an ethical dilemma. Not with the meteorology side of, not with doing the weather, didn't have a problem with that. But on the reporting side, I had some ethical qualms. And I was asked to do a story one night by the executive producer, breaking story, some guy. He had just been released from prison after 20 years. He was a pedophile. I didn't really think it was newsworthy. However, the executive producer, who now works at CNN, did think it was newsworthy. We went out, we ended up in a very dangerous situation. The executive producer was not available for us to reach. It was extremely, I hate to use the word stupid, but my photographer should never have gotten outside of our car when we were surrounded, because that led to us needing to buy our way out of some very inebriated people who were not going to let us leave safely. I went back to the station. He said, hey, here's the story. The executive producer said, okay, well, I'm sorry you couldn't reach me, but obviously that's not going to be a story, so don't worry about it. We'll just have you do a quick reader. And I said, all right, it's fine. I wrote it. I'm getting ready before the newscast, and all of a sudden I read the words on the teleprompter, and it says, and Josh Nathan will be coming up with a special investigation. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what special investigation? And then I start to find that what I had written is no longer there, and I'm reading what he had replaced it with, the executive producer, and I'm going, okay, now we're using video, we're using sound from this person that we had to pay off so that we could actually leave safely. This is a fabricated story. This really isn't newsworthy. I talked to the news director the next day, and I said, this isn't something that I can do. I can't live with it. It's something I need to work out in the form of a dissertation. And she understood, had no problem with it. I said, I'll stay here as long as you need me to. I'm not leaving you high and dry, but, and I thought I would go back into the field of journalism. I really did. I ended up really loving teaching. And that's how I ended up moving into collective memory and critical theory. and looking at journalism from that standpoint. And I hesitate to mention, but we all know a week ago there was a shooting, and my news director who had hired me in Colorado Springs and who had hired me again in Honolulu, I talked to him over the weekend. His name's Dan Dennison. He was the news director who fired the reporter in 2013. Not an easy situation. Said his former team right now is really struggling. He's struggling. He's a good news director. I don't know the details of the situation. It's too fresh and too raw, but I really always loved Dan's approach in that we would have no PIO weeks. So, a PIO is if there's a fire or if there's a car accident, you can't interview, you can't use the sound bites from the paramedics or essentially the talking heads. You need to find somebody real. If you can't find somebody real, you don't have sound for your story. You need to have sound for your story. It's part of how the media agenda sets, how the media engages. And the more I started to learn about that, and the more I learned, hey, we are really good at misdirecting and manipulating the public because we're great at telling you what our top story won't be by telling you a different top story and teasing the real top story that we bury either at the very bottom of the first segment or the very bottom of the second segment of the newscast with multiple teases of, and coming up soon, you'll find out what's in your refrigerator that will kill you in 5 minutes. And that was difficult for me to deal with. But applying critical theory, looking at journalism ethically, and understanding that there are the Carol Marines in the world from WMAQ who will stand up and say, hey, no, you don't have the right to even vote. Even though it's private, you're influencing an election when you vote. You don't have that right if you're a journalist. You can't champion breast cancer awareness. You can't champion AIDS awareness. You can't cherry pick a cause. And when I was doing research for this paper, of course, all anchors have their pet projects, but I also came across many anchors who were very popular in their markets and infamous for their bad behavior. DUIs, foul language on the air, not realizing their mic was hot. If you ever have a microphone on you, you assume that it's always hot. You never, ever forget that that microphone is on you, because the person at the audio board may accidentally bump your mic up in the middle of the commercial. And if you're going, I can't wait to get out of here, you won't have to wait very long. So I love teaching. I teach critical thinking and speech, communication, and I couldn't be happier with my choice.